Back on MorningLine, thanks for joining us, talking about affordable housing in Metro, Davidson County as a whole, and finding ways to do it. With us this morning, two Metro Council persons who were part of two proposals that have passed to try to make affordable housing something that exists here in the city. Bob Mendez and Berkeley Allen, thanks for coming on this morning. We've got a few calls. I want to get to Amy, who waited through the break. Good morning, Amy.
Good morning.
Hi, go ahead.
Well, I don't really know if it's a question or a comment because I live on Social Security Disability and widow's benefits, and my entire check is $753, and they're talking about affordable housing, and Nashville is growing by leaps and bounds, and that's wonderful. But all these affordable housing, it's like the cheapest that you can find is like $1,200.
Yeah.
Well, my check, that's definitely not affordable. What happens to the people who don't make that kind of money? Where are they going to live eventually?
Where do you live right now?
I live in the Bordeaux area. I was born and raised here.
Okay, and do you have a home there that you live in, or are you renting right now?
I rent, and I pay $600 a month.
Okay.
And I've lived for 16 months with no electricity. So, you know,
oh, goodness.
I can't afford it all. So
Goodness.
What am I supposed to do? And, I mean, I've tried.
Yeah.
It can't work.
Amy, listen, she's a great example. These are the type of people I'd like to see helped. And she lives out in Bordeaux, and $600 a month rent, pretty good in anywhere in Davidson County. So she's found something, but still, think about it. $600 a month rent, and her income right now with her situation, $753 a month. That's tough. That's real tough, and I feel for her. What about people like her? Obviously, I would imagine the options of her moving into the city, even with your plan, it's not going to. There's going to be a threshold where it's just not an option.
Right. Well, again, to reiterate what we said earlier, is this is one tool in the toolbox, and we know that we can't solve the entire spectrum of the problem with this particular tool. There are other tools that are either in existence or being developed. We have a Barnes Affordable Housing Fund that is more focused on what we look at as a 0 to 60% of the area median income that Bob explained earlier, so that there are other possibilities. Metropolitan Development and Housing Authority also builds residential projects where people with lower incomes can live. So there are other parts of the solution that that the city is working on that we hope will cover those gaps, because we realize that there's a full spectrum, and this is only targeting one small piece of it.
I'm just wondering, how would someone like Amy inquire about that kind of? Would she call her council person, or? And I'm just wondering, some of those other programs you just mentioned, some of them up and running where she can inquire about that? Council
person, Metro Social Services, MDHA, Metropolitan Development Housing Authority. Those are all good resources.
What are the options out there for affordable housing? Just before we get to the other phone calls, then. So I'm just curious, prior to this, what did you both observe seeing that concerned you? What effect have we seen so far with these escalating, rents and mortgages that are there? What is it that really concerns you most about what's happening in the city?
Well, for me, I strongly believe that in order for the city to be successful, to be its city, we need neighborhoods all across the city that are racially and economically diverse. Studies show that that's where we get the best outcomes for education, that's where you get the best outcomes for jobs, and we have that's a real problem in Nashville. As neighborhoods like Germantown, Salemtown, Wedgwood, Houston, the Nations have more or less emptied of the residents that lived there 20 years ago, we have to ask, where did they go? What are they doing? They're farther away from city services, and we just can't ignore the problem. And then setting aside all of that, we've got a real business problem in that tens of thousands of people who work downtown for regular jobs, normal jobs, can't afford to live anywhere near those jobs anymore. And both of those problems, whether you look at it from a social point of view or from an economic point of view, it's a major problem for where we're going as a city, our ability to stay as good a place to live as it has been.
So you think, and a lot of business angle might say, well, they should be able to charge what they want for their rentals and all this. But on the other hand, from the business perspective, these merchants, you suspect that if there's nothing addressed here, at least in the city, that they will have more difficulty finding employees to work in some of these service industry jobs without paying substantially more in salary?
I think that
is it already happening?
Absolutely. If you talk to the folks that own downtown hotels, I mean, we all know there's a half dozen, a dozen hotels under construction. There's new ones coming online all the time. As I understand it, wages downtown have increased, which, depending whether you're a business or somebody getting the wage, is a good or a bad thing. Maybe 40% just in the last handful of years. And with every new hotel that comes online, there's a problem getting new employees, because at the wages that are paid, they can't get people to come into downtown for those jobs.
Yeah.
And it's wages going up is good, but businesses downtown having a hard time finding employees is bad.
And I think also for recruiting new businesses to the city. I mean, they're going to ask, are the people that I need to work for me going to be there, and will they be able to?
Yeah, so they may not come if
town.
And when this another topic that we've had shows on, of course, and we talked about before the show, is getting into town.
Right, the transportation
issue too. So now if they have to move out because they can't afford to live here, how are they going to get here? And so yeah, there's many angles to this. You think about Manhattan. No one who works in a service industry job can live in New York City. And they're all living outside in Jersey or whatever and commuting in, but you got to find a way to get them there.
Right.
So let's go to Debbie next. Hi, Debbie.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you. Go ahead.
Okay, Nick, you couldn't hear me last week. I just want to say, first of all, Mr. Mendez, you just did say something very important. I appreciate you at least looked to that. Where did the people go that did live there? I grew up in East Nashville, and I'm a native Nashvilleian, as you well know, from that aspect. I just want to say, when I hear affordable housing now, I laugh and almost want to cry. Cry for the people, laugh at the politicians, because what they're saying about affordable housing is the police, is the teachers, and those people are educated and have salaries in many positions. What about the people like the Metro bus driver, the 40-year-old hairdresser that has their little house, or has their little house? Yes, I know what gentrification is. But what about these people that you talk about, cluster housing and apartments and this and that, and buildings that will house multiple people? There are people, blue-collar workers, let's say, they don't want to live in a building. They don't want to live in an apartment. They want a little yard. They want a backyard. They want their house. One last thing, when you allow developers to develop neighborhoods, or build in neighborhoods, and they have still your little two-bedroom ranchers, and then you have your $350,000, $450,000 homes that are built right beside it, 3 stories tall, where the bottom floor is nothing but a garage. How in the world will Metro tax assessor assess taxes in these neighborhoods that are being developed, where you say you allow, or are going to allow, or are going to force a developer to put affordable housing in the mix? How can the tax assessor do a job suitable and fair to that lower income, to that smaller home?
Okay.
And all the homes around it are high dollar.
All right, that's an interesting point, Debbie. Can you answer that quickly, or should we go to a break and then you want to answer it when we come back?
Real quickly, I'll just say that, again, there is a spectrum. We do have things for those people. There are tax freeze and tax abatements options that can help people hold on to their house if that's the issue, with regard to property taxes.
Which we're gonna,
We do have some other tools like a contextual design overlay that in neighborhoods that have small homes that want to keep it that way, that neighborhood can say, we're gonna adopt this overlay and say that any new house that gets built needs to be similar in size to what's already here, because we value that. This has been a place that we could afford and raise our family. So Metro is working on some different kind of zoning tools. People will have different opinions on that can help.
And so with her point too, though, to some of these units that may be set aside that are a little less expensive than the others, will they be taxed based on what they're paying rent or what the actual value of that property is?
Value of the property.
So that's going to be a little more expensive than what you're
Again, we're talking rental.
I know, it's right.
And
That's
it's
true.
the owner that pays that.
That's right. That's right. That's a good point. All right, we'll take a break on that note. We'll be back with more of your phone calls right after this.